In the school pickup line, my sister-in-law texted me, "Stop playing mom," and I stayed quiet while something inside me cracked in half. I did not answer. I did not blink. I just watched the little blue typing bubble appear, then disappear. Like it was daring me to ask the question I was too scared to say out loud. Why now? My name is Serafina, I am 34, and I work as a dental hygienist. I live in a clean little suburb where people smile with their whole faces at the grocery store, but they whisper with their eyes. I am married to Wilder, and we have one daughter, Sienna, who is in the same grade as my niece. My niece's name is Ivy. She is the kind of kid who runs on pure sunlight. Loud laugh, scraped knees, glitter in her hair from some art project she started and forgot to finish. Ivy is my brother-in-law's daughter. His name is Thayer. He married my sister-in-law, Harlow, before I ever met Wilder. Back when Harlow wore heels and carried a planner like it was a weapon, Harlow was a machine, the kind of woman who remembered every birthday, every permission slip, every teacher conference, every peanut-free rule, and still showed up to work looking like she belonged on a billboard. Then one morning, after what everyone thought was a simple flu, her body never came back to normal. It started with tingling in her legs, then weakness, then days where getting from the bed to the bathroom felt like a marathon. Within a year, she was using a wheelchair more often than not because she wanted to, because her body decided it for her. I need to be clear about something right away. I never set out to replace anyone. I did not wake up one day and think, I know what this family needs, me in the center of it. I stepped in the way most women step in, quietly, automatically, because there was a kid standing in the gap. The first time was small. A permission slip Ivy forgot to get signed, and Thayer was already on a job site an hour away. Harlow was having one of those days where sitting upright made her skin go gray. I offered to run by their house, sign it, drop it off. That was it. Then it became dance shoes. Then it became picking Ivy up when aftercare called for the third time, and nobody answered. Then it became helping with a science fair poster because Ivy refused to be the only kid with crooked letters. When you do one thing, people stop asking if you can. They start expecting you will. And honestly, I did not mind. I liked Ivy. I loved Ivy. I liked being the grown woman she could lean on when her world felt wobbly, but it was never just Ivy. It was also the way Thayer looked when he answered the door, exhausted, like his bones were hollow. It was the way Harlow smiled with only one side of her mouth now, like she was rationing joy. It was the way their house slowly got quieter. Not peaceful quiet, lonely quiet. I saw it. I did not say it. I just did what I could. I started driving Ivy to dance on Tuesdays. Harlow could not sit in the auditorium chairs for long without her back locking up, and the building was a nightmare even when it pretended it was accessible. Thayer would send me a text that said, "Are you free today?" And I would be in my car before I even typed yes. When Ivy had a competition, she asked me to come because she did not want to be the only girl there without a woman to help with hair, makeup, costume straps. The first time she asked, she lowered her voice like it was a shameful secret. "Can you come with me, Aunt Sarah, just to help me get ready?" I remember looking at Harlow across their kitchen. Harlow was cutting strawberries slowly, carefully, like each movement cost her something. She heard Ivy. Her face did not change, but the knife paused. I could have said, "Let us ask your mom." I could have said, "Your dad will figure it out." I could have said, "Sometimes you just have to deal." Instead, I said, "Of course," because Ivy was 10, not 40. Because kids should not have to deal with things adults broke. I told myself I was doing the right thing, and for a while, it felt like it. Ivy would run into my arms at school pickup. Harlow would thank me, but it was always through Thayer, never directly. Thayer would say, "She really appreciates you," and I would nod like it was enough. Then the holiday season hit, and everything got messier. Ivy's school announced a winter festival. Booths, crafts, hot chocolate, the whole small town dream. Ivy signed up with her friends to run a booth selling handmade ornaments and little painted wooden signs, the kind of thing that looks adorable in pictures and becomes chaos in real life, because it is really the parents doing all the work while the kids eat cookies and argue about glitter colors. One night, Ivy called me from her mom's phone. Her voice was bright but careful, like she had been rehearsing. "Aunt Sarah, can you help me with the booth?" I did not answer right away. I glanced at Wilder, who was rinsing dishes, and he raised his eyebrows like, "Here we go again." I said, "Did you ask your dad?" "I did. He said he is slammed. He said you might be able to." "And your mom?" There was a pause, just a tiny one, but I felt it. "She is tired," Ivy said softly, "and the gym is loud. It makes her headaches worse." I let my breath out slow. "Okay, I will talk to your dad." I texted Thayer. He replied almost instantly, like he was waiting for it. "Please, I hate this stuff. If you can take the lead, I will build whatever they need. Thank you, Sarah." I did not hear from Harlow. Not that night. Not the next day. Not for the whole week, so I did what I always did. I moved forward, assuming silence meant consent, assuming that if something was wrong, someone would tell me. I invited Ivy and her friends over for a craft day. My living room turned into a disaster zone of paint, ribbons, glue, and little wooden stars. Sienna was thrilled. Ivy looked like she was finally breathing, like something fun was allowed to exist again. At one point, Ivy held up a lopsided ornament and giggled so hard she snorted. She covered her mouth and whispered, "Do not tell my mom." I snorted. I laughed too, but something pinched in my chest. That sentence was small, but it carried weight. Like she was always measuring herself around her mother now. Halfway through the day, my phone buzzed. It was Harlow. "Can you call me?" No question mark. No softness. I stepped into the kitchen, wiped paint off my fingers, and called. Harlow answered on the first ring. Her voice sounded thin, like she had been holding it together with tape. "Why are you doing this?" she said. I blinked. "Doing what?" "The booth, the crafts, the costumes, the whole thing." "Why are you doing it?" I kept my tone calm. "Because Ivy asked me." Thayer said he could not. "I thought it would help." "You thought," Harlow repeated. She let out a laugh that had no humor. "You always think." My stomach tightened. "Harlow, I am not trying to step on your toes." "You do not have toes," she snapped. "You have boots, and you walk wherever you want." I went quiet, my hand pressed against the counter. I could hear the kids laughing in the other room, the sound of normal life happening without permission. Harlow continued, voice rising, then dropping into something sharper. "I am her mother. I am not dead. I am not gone. And every time you swoop in, you teach her she can have a different mom whenever she feels like it." I tried to speak, but she cut me off. "No, let me finish. I see her look at you. I see how she lights up. I see how she talks about your house like it is safe. I see how she asks you for things she used to ask me." My throat burned. "That is not fair." "You want fair?" Harlow said, and I could hear the smile in it, the bitter kind. "Okay, here's fair. Ivy needs to learn reality. Sometimes her parents cannot do things. Sometimes she misses out. That is life." I swallowed hard. "She is a child. She should not have to miss out because you are hurting." There was a long pause, and then Harlow's voice changed, like it came from somewhere darker. "I am not the one replacing myself," she said. "You are." My heart beat so loud it felt like it was knocking against my ribs. "I am not replacing you. you, I said carefully. I have my own child. I am helping because your family needed help. Needed, Harlow echoed. Or you needed to feel needed. That one landed like a slap. I stared at the wall, at the little calendar Sienna had decorated with stickers. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice steady. Harlow, I made a commitment to Ivy and to the other parents. I am going to follow through. After the festival, if you and Thayer want me to step back, I will. But I will not abandon her mid-project. You do not get to decide what my daughter needs, Harlow said. You never did. Then she hung up. I stood there, phone still against my ear, listening to nothing. I stayed quiet. I stayed calm. I walked back into the living room with a smile pasted on because the kids were watching, and I refused to let them see me crumble. Ivy looked up. Everything okay? Yep, I lied. Keep going, sweetheart. But I could not shake the feeling that something had shifted, like a plate cracked under pressure, and nobody noticed yet because dinner was still being served. That night, after I cleaned glitter out of my couch cushions, I called Thayer. He answered like he was already stressed. Hey, everything okay? I did not soften it. Harlow called. She is upset. She says she never agreed to me doing the booth. There was silence, then a sigh. She knew, I told her. Then why is she acting like I ambushed her? Thayer's voice dropped. Because she is not mad about the booth. I sat down at my kitchen table. Then what is it? He hesitated, and that hesitation felt like a door slowly opening to something ugly. She has been talking to people online, he said finally. Other disabled moms. Some of them have strong opinions. She is starting to think Ivy should not do anything she cannot physically do with her. I felt heat rush up my neck. That is insane. She does not think so, Thayer said quietly. She says it is about solidarity, about not leaving her behind. And what about Ivy? I said, voice sharp. What about her childhood? I know, Thayer said. I know, I argued. I do not even know how to talk to her anymore without it turning into a fight. I closed my eyes. I pictured Harlow's face the last time I saw her at a school event, sitting in the back, hands folded, smile too tight. I had assumed she was tired. I had assumed wrong. Thayer, I said softly. Does Harlow want me out of Ivy's life? He did not answer right away. Then he said she wants control over something, anything, because she cannot control her body, and she thinks you are taking what little she has left. I felt my chest ache. I never wanted that. I know you did not, Thayer said, but she is drowning, Sarah, and when people drown, they grab whatever is closest, even if it pulls everyone under. After we hung up, Wilder came into the kitchen and leaned against the doorway. You look like you saw a ghost, he said. I feel like one, I whispered. I told him everything. The call, the accusation, the way Harlow said you needed to feel needed. Wilder listened without interrupting. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. She is scared Ivy will love you more. No, I said fast. That is not it. Wilder's eyes stayed on mine. You sure? I opened my mouth and nothing came out. Because there was a part of me that had noticed how Ivy hugged me tighter lately, how she laughed more at my house, how she asked me questions she never asked her mom anymore. And I had told myself it was just convenience, just logistics, just timing. But what if it was more? The next week I did the booth planning anyway, quietly, no bragging, no posting pictures. I kept everything practical. I sent updates to the group chat. I bought supplies. I helped Ivy practice her little sales pitch. I told myself, just get through the festival, then you can reassess. The night before the winter festival, Ivy came over to drop off her costume. She was wearing her backpack even though she was not staying long, like she was ready to run. She stood in my entryway and stared at the floor. Aunt Sarah, she said, voice small. Did my mom say something to you? I froze. My heart started pounding again. I crouched down so we were eye level. Why do you ask? Ivy's fingers twisted the zipper pull on her backpack because she has been mad, like extra mad, and she keeps saying you are not my mom. Like I forgot. I swallowed. I chose my words carefully, like stepping through broken glass. Your mom loves you, I said, and she loves you a lot. Sometimes when adults are stressed, they say things that come out wrong. Ivy's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back hard, like she was refusing to give in. She read my journal, Ivy whispered. The air left my lungs. What? I said too sharply. Ivy flinched. I know she did. She mentioned something I wrote, something I never said out loud. And then she looked at me like she hated me, and I felt sick. I forced myself to stay calm. I forced my voice to stay gentle. Ivy, sweetie, I am so sorry. She nodded fast, like she wanted to move past it, like she wanted to pretend it was not happening. Then she said, I did not write that I do not love her. I wrote that I miss her, like the old her, and now I think she is leaving because of me. My throat tightened so hard it hurt. I reached for her hand, but she pulled back a little, not from me, but from the whole world. I should not have asked you to help, she whispered. I should have just not done the booth, then she would not be mad. I felt something fierce rise in me, something protective and furious, but I kept it quiet. I kept it contained. Listen to me, I said, steady and low. You are not responsible for grown-up emotions. You are a kid. You are allowed to want joy. You are allowed to have a childhood. None of that makes you bad. Ivy stared at me like she wanted to believe me, but did not know how. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. It buzzed again. I glanced down and my stomach dropped. It was Harlow, and the message was not for me. It was a screenshot. A screenshot of a text I had sent Thayer weeks ago when he asked me to take Ivy to a dance competition. It was harmless, practical. It said, I can take her. Just send me the address and her makeup bag. But Harlow had circled one line in red, not with an actual marker, but with one of those phone editing tools. A bright loop like a warning sign. The line she circled was the part where I wrote, I will handle the mom stuff. My blood went cold because I remembered exactly why I wrote it. Thayer had joked, I am clueless with hair and makeup. And I had replied trying to be funny. Now it looked like proof. Harlow's message under the screenshot said, so you admit it. I stared at my screen. My hands went numb. Ivy was still standing in front of me, waiting, eyes wet, shoulders tense, like she was bracing for impact. I did not know what to say to Harlow. I did not know what to say to Ivy. And I did not know which one would break first. Quick real-life pause. When I am editing these late at night, I get tired, and your comments are what keep me going. Hit like, subscribe, and tell me your city, state, or country. Alright, now let me take you back. I stared at that circled screenshot until my eyes started to sting. Then I slid my phone into my pocket like it was hot. Ivy was still in my entryway, breathing shallow, watching my face for answers. I could not give her the truth, not the full truth, not the ugly kind that would stick in her head at night. So, I did the only thing I could do. I smiled, soft, small, the kind of smile that says, I can handle this even when I cannot. Hey, I said, brushing a loose strand of hair behind my ear. Can you do me a favor? Ivy blinked. What? Go grab your costume bag from the car. And when you come back in, tell me which snack you want for tomorrow. The festival is going to be long. Her shoulders loosened, just a fraction. Kids want instructions when the world feels shaky. Rules. A plan. Something solid. Okay, she whispered and ran down the porch steps. The moment the door closed behind her, the air left my lungs. I pulled my phone back out. I opened Harlow's message again. I took my own screenshot of it, the circled line, the accusation. I sent it to Wilder with one sentence. Do not react, save this. Then I opened my text thread with Thayer. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to type a paragraph. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to say, tell your wife to stop. I wanted to say, your kid is crying in my hallway because of this. Instead, I typed 4 words. Did Harlow send this? Thayer replied a minute later. Yes, I did not know she had that. My stomach dropped. That meant she was going through his phone or his laptop or something shared. It meant there were no walls left in that house. No private corners. No safe place for anyone, including Ivy. I wrote back, keeping it calm. Do you want me to respond? His answer came slow, like he was choosing each word with shaking hands. No, please, just get through tomorrow. I will talk to her. I stared at that last line and felt a bitter little spark of disbelief. He had been saying he would talk to her for months. Talking was not fixing anything. It was just moving the fight to a later time. Ivy came back in, cheeks pink from the cold, costume bag bumping against her leg. I want the pretzel chips, she said quickly, as if snacks could glue her world back together. Pretzel chips it is, I said, and a water, and a fruit pouch. We are doing this like pros. She tried to smile. It did not reach her eyes. She turned to leave, then paused. Aunt Sarah. Yeah, baby. If my mom comes tomorrow, she said, voice barely there, do not be mad at her. My throat tightened. I am not mad at her. That was not a lie. Anger was too simple. What I felt was heavier than that. I just want you to have a good day, I added. Ivy nodded once and walked out. That night, I did not sleep. Not really. I lay in bed next to Wilder, listening to him breathe, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment I had ever spent with that family, like... I was looking for the exact second. It went wrong. Wilder rolled over at one point and whispered, you okay? I swallowed hard. I do not know what to do anymore. Then do nothing, he murmured. For now. Nothing loud, nothing emotional, nothing that gives her more ammunition. I stared into the dark. I hate feeling like I'm being put on trial. You are, he said quietly. So act like it. Document everything. Keep it clean. Let her overplay her hand. I turned my head toward him. That feels cold. Wilder's voice stayed gentle. It is not cold. It is protective. For Ivy, for you, for us. I did not answer, but I heard him. I did. The next morning, the sky was the color of wet paper. The kind of winter morning where the world looks tired before the day even starts. I picked Ivy up early, her costume bag stuffed in the back seat, her hair brushed smooth, her hands twisting in her lap. Sienna climbed in beside her, chattering about hot chocolate and peppermint. Ivy smiled at my daughter like she was borrowing warmth. As we pulled into the school parking lot, Ivy's eyes darted around. Do you see her? She asked. I kept my tone light. See who? My mom. I pretended to focus on the line of cars. Not yet, but I was looking too. My heart was beating like it knew something was coming. Inside the gym, parents were hauling bins, taping signs, dragging folding tables. The booth area smelled like cinnamon and cheap coffee. Someone's toddler was crying. Someone else was laughing too loud. It was chaotic, familiar, almost comforting. I set up Ivy's booth with the other moms. We hung the little wooden ornaments. We lined up the painted signs. We pinned the costumes on hangers behind the table so the kids could put them on when it was time. Ivy's friends were bouncing, excited, practicing their little sales lines. Ivy stayed quieter than usual, but she did what she was supposed to. She smiled when someone spoke to her. She helped straighten the display. She asked me softly if her braid looked okay. It looks perfect, I told her, and meant it. Then, right when the doors opened and the first wave of families poured in, I felt the shift. The way people sense a storm before the rain hits. The way the air tightens. I looked up. Harlow was there. She rolled in on her chair like she was entering a courtroom. Her hair was done. Her lipstick was perfect. Her eyes were sharp, scanning the space, landing on me like I was a target. Beside her, Thayer pushed the chair with one hand and held a travel mug in the other. His jaw was clenched. He looked older than he should have, like the stress had carved into him. Ivy saw them and went still. Sienna whispered, is that Ivy's mom? I nodded once. Harlow stopped directly in front of the booth, right where the ornaments hung like little glittery witnesses. She did not look at Ivy first. She looked at me. So, she said, voice crisp, this is what you do. I kept my face calm. I kept my hands on the table. I did not step back. I did not step forward. I just held steady. Hi, Harlow, I said. I am glad you made it. Her mouth twitched like she hated that I gave her a polite greeting, like she wanted a fight and I refused to hand her one. I turned slightly toward Ivy, keeping my voice warm. Sweetheart, do you want to show your mom the signs you painted? Ivy's fingers tightened around the edge of her costume bag. She glanced at her dad. Thayer gave her a small nod, like, go on. Ivy lifted one of the signs. It said in uneven paint, believe in yourself. Harlow stared at it for a long moment. Her eyes shimmered. For a split second, the sharpness cracked and I saw something raw underneath. Grief, jealousy, fear. Then the crack sealed. Harlow looked back at me and said louder, I did not approve any of this. One of the other moms went quiet. I saw her glance between us. I saw her phone in her hand, not recording yet, but ready. People love drama as long as it is not happening in their own marriage. I kept my tone even. Thayer told me he was okay with it. I am not talking to Thayer, Harlow snapped. I am talking to you. Thayer's shoulders tensed behind her, but he did not speak. It was like he had learned that any word from him would be used as a weapon later. Harlow's gaze slid over the booth, over the costumes, over the decorations, over Ivy's friends laughing and doing what kids do. Then she said the thing that made my stomach flip. You know what is funny, she said, voice sweet now. Too sweet. The school said only a parent is supposed to be responsible for a booth. They told me that. My heart thudded once hard, because I knew that was not true. I had read the email. It said a responsible adult, not a parent, and Harlow knew that too, which meant she was lying on purpose. Micro twist number 1. She wanted me to panic. She wanted me to scramble. She wanted me to look guilty. I did not. I tilted my head slightly, like I was just curious. Who told you that? Harlow's smile froze. The school. Which person? I asked gently. There it was. The small question. The calm one. The one that forces a liar to choose between naming someone or admitting they made it up. Harlow's eyes flicked away for half a second. It does not matter. It matters, I said softly, because I want to follow the rules. Thayer cleared his throat. Harlow! She cut him off without even turning. Do not. Then she looked at Ivy. Finally, really looked at her. Ivy, come here. Ivy flinched like she had been called to the principal's office. She stepped around the table, slow, careful. Harlow's voice changed again. It went quiet, intimate, but still sharp enough to cut. Did you ask for this? Or did she push you into it? Ivy's face went white. Her eyes darted to me, then to her dad. I felt a surge of anger, hot and protective, but I kept my voice low. Harlow, do not put her in the middle. Harlow's head head snapped toward me. Do not tell me how to talk to my daughter. Thayer finally stepped forward. Stop right now. Harlow laughed, bitter. You are defending her again. Micro twist number 2. This was not about the booth. This was about the story Harlow was building in her head, where everyone had chosen me and left her behind. Harlow's eyes narrowed. You love playing hero, she said to me. You love being the one she runs to. I did not move. I did not raise my voice. I did not deny it because denial would sound defensive. I just said something true. I love Ivy, I said, and I love you enough to not fight you in front of her. Harlow's lips parted like she was about to spit something cruel. And then the principal walked up. Her name was Morgan. Friendly, sharp, always moving. She smiled too brightly, the way administrators do when they sense conflict and want to crush it with professionalism. Hi, Morgan said, looking between us. Everything okay here? Harlow's face lit up, triumphant, like the judge had arrived. Yes, Harlow said quickly. Actually, I was just telling her that only parents are supposed to run booths. I do not think this is appropriate. Morgan blinked once, then she looked at me. Serafina Wright, you are Ivy's aunt? Yes, Morgan nodded. We are grateful you are here. The email said responsible adult, not parent. We have a lot of families with different situations. We want kids to participate. Harlow's mouth tightened. Morgan continued, still pleasant but firmer now. If you have concerns, we can talk in my office another time. Today is for the kids. Harlow's cheeks flushed. She looked around and realized people were watching, parents, teachers, a few older kids, and Ivy standing there like she wished she could diss it because Harlow forced a smile. Of course. I just wanted to clarify. Morgan gave a crisp nod and walked away. And just like that, Harlow's big move collapsed. Not because I exposed her, not because I yelled, just because I asked one calm question and let reality answer it. Harlow stared at me, eyes burning. Enjoy your little performance, she whispered. Then she rolled away, fast, almost reckless, Thayer hurrying after her like a man chasing a runaway cart. Ivy stood there frozen. I reached for her hand under the table where nobody could see, and she let me hold it, but her fingers were cold. Her eyes looked glossy, like she was fighting tears with every ounce of willpower. You are okay, I murmured. She swallowed. She hates me. No, I whispered. She is hurting. Ivy's voice broke. Because of me. My chest ached, but I kept my face steady. I leaned closer. Not because of you. Never because of you. The festival kept moving, because life does not pause for family disasters. People bought ornaments. Kids laughed. Teachers complimented the booth. Ivy went through the motions, smiling when she had to, but I could feel her shrinking inside herself. Toward the end of the day, Thayer returned alone. His face was pale, his eyes hollow. Harlow left, he said, voice rough. She called a ride. I nodded once. Is Ivy okay to go with you after? Thayer rubbed his forehead. She asked if she could stay with you tonight. My heart squeezed. Did you say yes? I did not answer, he admitted. I do not know what to do anymore. I looked at him, really looked at him. His hands were shaking slightly. His shoulders were hunched like he was bracing for a hit that never stopped coming. Thayer, I said quietly, when is the last time you slept? He did not respond. That silence was an answer. Micro twist number 3. This was bigger than Harlow's jealousy, bigger than Ivy's sadness. Thayer looked like a man running on fumes, and fumes do not last. I opened my mouth to say, Ivy can stay with us, I will handle it, we will figure it out, but before I could, Thayer swayed, just a little, like the room tilted. His hand reached for the edge of the table, missed, and grabbed it again. I stepped forward. Thayer, he tried to smile like he could make it a joke. I am fine, just dizzy. Then his face changed, his eyes unfocused. His knees buckled, and in the middle of a room full of holiday music and laughter, my brother-in-law started to fall, caught Thayer under his arms before his head could hit the edge of the booth table. His body was heavier than I expected, dead weight for a terrifying second, and the smell of cinnamon in the gym suddenly turned nauseating. Somebody call for help, I said, but I did not shout. I kept my voice steady. I kept my hands firm. Panic makes people useless. A teacher sprinted toward us. Another parent pulled out a phone. Someone turned the music down like that would fix anything. Thayer tried to speak. His lips moved, but no sound came out. His skin had gone gray, the exact color Harlow's used to go on her bad days. For a split second, I saw Ivy in my mind, how she looked when she thought everything was her fault, and my chest tightened with a sharp, ugly fear. Breathe, I whispered in Thayer's ear. Just breathe. You are not alone. His eyes fluttered. He pressed a hand to his chest like he was trying to hold himself together with his palm. I guided him down onto a folding chair. The teacher knelt in front of him, asking questions, and Thayer could only nod faintly, like his body was speaking for him. Then Ivy was there. I did not see her run up, but suddenly she was in front of me. Her costume skirt bunched in her fists, her face drained of color. Dad, she whispered. Her voice cracked in the middle like glass. I crouched beside her and put one hand on her shoulder, gentle but firm. Sweetheart, listen to me, I said softly. Your dad is having a medical thing. Grown-up people are handling it. Your job is to stand right here with me and breathe. Ivy's eyes filled, then hardened, like she was trying to be brave through sheer will. I did this, she breathed. No, I said, sharper than I intended, then I softened immediately. No, stop, that is not true. The help arrived quickly. A school security officer cleared space. Someone brought water. Someone else guided the kids back behind the booth so they would not crowd him. Thayer was taken out through a side door while Ivy watched like she was watching her entire life get dragged away on a stretcher. When the gym doors closed behind him, the winter festival noise tried to restart, awkward and wrong. People did not know where to look. Some returned to shopping to pretend everything was normal. Others hovered, hungry for details. I stood up, lifted my chin, and looked directly at the other parents at the booth. Calm eyes, neutral face, no gossip. Can you handle closing this up? I asked, polite and practical. I need to take Ivy home. One mom nodded quickly, relieved to have an instruction. Another squeezed Ivy's hand and murmured something sweet. Ivy did not speak on the drive. She stared out the window, blinking too slowly. Sienna, sensing the danger, stayed quiet for once, holding her own hands in her lap like she had been taught to behave in church. When we got to my house, Wilder was already in the driveway. Because he had received my earlier message and read the one word I added when I sent it, fell. He opened the car door for Ivy. She climbed out like her legs did not belong to her. Wilder crouched to her level and spoke gently. Hey, kiddo, come inside. We have blankets and warm soup. Ivy's lips trembled. Then she collapsed against his chest and started crying so hard her whole body shook. It was a sound I will never forget. Not loud, not dramatic, just raw, like something inside her finally snapped and all the fear leaked out. Wilder held her like she was his own. He did not say much. He did not try to fix it with words. He just stayed solid. I stood behind them with my keys still in my hand, trying not to cry too, because if I cried, Ivy would feel like she needed to comfort me, and she had already carried too much. That night, Thayer called. His voice sounded exhausted and embarrassed. I am okay, he said. They said it was stress, chest pain, not a heart attack, but it was close enough to scare me. I exhaled slow. Where are you? At home. home, he said. Harlow is here. There was a pause. Then he added, she is not really here. She is angry. She keeps saying I did this to myself because I refused to listen to her. I kept my voice steady. What does she want? She wants to leave, he said quietly. She keeps saying she wants to go back to her family. And now she is saying Ivy can come too. But she says it like it is a threat, not a plan. My stomach clenched. What about Ivy? Ivy asked to stay with you, he said, voice rough. I want her safe. I want her away from the fighting. Can she? I looked at Ivy curled on my couch under a blanket, cheeks stained from crying, Sienna sitting close beside her, silent, offering a stuffed animal like a peace treaty. Yes, I said. She can. After I hung up, I went into the bathroom and locked the door for 1 minute so I could breathe without an audience. I stared at my reflection and felt the heaviness settle in. This was not a booth fight anymore. This was a family breaking in slow motion. Over the next few weeks, everything slid downhill. Thayer tried to go back to work too fast. His body did not cooperate. He would push through a day, then crash. He looked older every time I saw him. He did not have the luxury of falling apart, so he just kept moving like a man dragging a house behind him. Harlow grew sharper, more distant. She started calling Ivy less, and when she did call, the conversations ended in tears. Ivy started jumping at every phone buzz like it was a bomb. One night, Ivy sat at my kitchen table doing homework and whispered, if I had not gotten mad at her, would she stay? I swallowed hard and kept my voice low. Your mom has been unhappy for a long time. Ivy stared at her math worksheet like the numbers were in a foreign language. So it is me. No, I said. It is not you. But she did not believe me, and I knew I could not force belief into a child's chest. I could only build safety around her until her nervous system stopped screaming. Wilder and I decided early that we would do this quietly. No public posts about being the supportive aunt. No dramatic family statements. Just structure, routine, food on the table, clothes washed, homework checked, school drop-off, dance pickup. The things kids remember when everything else is chaos. Meanwhile, Harlow's messages kept coming. Not often, but always sharp. One night she texted me, you happy now? I stared at it, my jaw clenched. There was no winning answer. Any response would feed her narrative. So I did not respond. Silent revenge is not revenge when a person is suffering. But silence can be a boundary. And boundaries are sometimes the only kindness you can afford. Instead of responding to Harlow, I did something smarter. I emailed Morgan, the principal, asking for a meeting. Not to complain, not to accuse, just to quietly set up support. When I met with Morgan, I brought no drama, only facts. I explained that Ivy was staying with us temporarily due to health issues and family stress. I asked for the school counselor's resources and what the process looked like. If Ivy needed a check-in during the day, I asked for advice on routines, on transitions, on how to keep Ivy from feeling exposed. Morgan listened, nodded, and said something that stuck with me. Kids do not need perfect parents, she said. They need predictable adults. Predictable, that was the word. That was what Ivy had lost. I also contacted a therapist's office. I did not search for a label like abandonment or resentment or anything fancy. I searched for someone who worked with children navigating family separation, chronic illness, and high-conflict homes. Someone trauma-informed but warm. Someone who could help Ivy without making her feel broken. The therapist they recommended was named Noelle. She specialized in kids who blame themselves for adult choices. The receptionist said it like it was common, like it was a heartbreak that happened every day. When I told Ivy about it, she shut down immediately. I am not going, she said, voice flat. I kept my tone calm. Okay, she blinked at me, suspicious. Okay? Yes, I said. I am not going to drag you. Her shoulders loosened, almost imperceptibly. Then I added gently, but you will still have support. Noelle can meet you at school, just to talk, not therapy. And you do not have to call it anything. You can call it a check-in. Ivy's eyes narrowed. My mom will say I am crazy. Wilder, sitting at the table, said softly, your mom does not get to decide what keeps your heart safe. Ivy stared at him like she did not know adults could speak like that. Like she did not know someone could protect her without yelling. She did not say yes. But she did not say no again either. She just looked down and kept eating her cereal, which was the closest she could get to agreement. In early January, Thayer came over after work, sat at our kitchen island, and stared into his coffee like it was going to answer him. Harlow is leaving, he said finally. I did not react outwardly. Inside, I felt a flood of grief and relief collide. She says she is moving back, he continued. She says she cannot do this anymore. And Ivy, I asked, voice quiet. Thayer's mouth tightened. She says she does not want custody. Not really. She says she cannot handle Ivy's attitude. She says Ivy is ungrateful. She says Ivy blames her. She says she cannot be the villain in her own house. I swallowed. Ivy is a child. I know, he whispered. But Harlow is not thinking like a mother right now. She is thinking like a wounded person. And wounded people, they rewrite the story to survive. He rubbed his face. I do not know how to tell Ivy. I looked at him, and in that moment I felt something decisive lock into place inside me. You do not, I said quietly, not alone. A week later, Harlow came to pick up some of her things from the house. Sire asked if she would meet Ivy for a conversation. Harlow agreed, but only at our place, not theirs. I watched Ivy from across the living room as she sat on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, hands hidden inside her sleeves. Harlow rolled into the doorway, face composed, chin lifted. She looked like she was walking into a negotiation, not a goodbye. Ivy's eyes went wide. Harlow said, hi. Ivy did not move. Thayer stood beside the fireplace, arms folded, like he was holding himself together with muscle. I stayed in the kitchen doorway, not hovering, but present. Wilder stayed behind me, quiet, solid. Harlow cleared her throat. I am moving. Ivy's face crumpled. She tried to speak, but the words jammed in her throat. Harlow's eyes flicked toward me, then back to Ivy. You will live with your dad. Ivy's voice finally came out, small and broken, because of me. Harlow's expression tightened, like she wanted to deny it, but could not. Thayer stepped forward. Do not do that. Harlow's jaw clenched. I am not doing anything. I am telling the truth. Ivy flinched. I did not raise my voice. I did not lecture. I did not accuse Harlow of cruelty. That would only make her dig in and burn the bridge harder. Instead, I walked one slow step forward and asked one small question. Calm as water, Harlow, I said gently. What would it cost you to say it is not her fault? Harlow's eyes flashed. For a second, she looked like she might explode. Then her face shifted, and I saw it. The thing she had been hiding behind anger. Fear that if she comforted Ivy, she would be trapped again. Fear that if she softened, she would lose her exit. Her mouth opened, then closed. She swallowed. I cannot, she said, voice thin. I cannot keep pretending I am okay. Thayer's shoulders sagged. Nobody asked you to pretend. Harlow's gaze went distant. Yes, you did. Every time you asked me to celebrate what I cannot do. Every time you told me to be grateful. Every time you told me Ivy needs a childhood. Like mine ended so hers could keep going. Ivy made a small sound like pain. Harlow looked at her, and for the first time in months, her voice broke. Ivy, she said quieter. I love you. you, but I cannot be in this house anymore. Ivy shook her head, tears spilling. I will be better. No, I said softly before I could stop myself. Then I caught my tone and kept it gentle. You do not have to earn love by shrinking. Harlow's eyes snapped to mine, sharp again, but weaker now. Ivy was sobbing. Thayer moved to sit beside her and Ivy let him, leaning into his side like she had been holding her breath for years. Harlow stared at them, then whispered, almost to herself, I am not built for this. And then she said something that changed everything. I read your journal, she told Ivy. Ivy went still. Her sobs stopped like a faucet turned off. Harlow's voice cracked again. I should not have. I did it because I felt like I was losing you. I did it because I did not know how to reach you. And when I read what you wrote, it felt like you were already gone. Ivy's mouth trembled. You did not have the right. I know, Harlow whispered. I know, I am sorry. That apology did not fix anything, but it was the first honest thing Harlow had said in a long time. Ivy stared at her mother with an expression that looked older than her face. I miss you, Ivy whispered. I miss when you laughed. I miss when you helped me. I miss when you wanted me. Harlow's eyes filled. She blinked hard, like crying was a weakness she could not afford. I wanted you, she said. I just could not stand watching you live a life I cannot touch. Thayer's voice was low. And so you are leaving. Harlow nodded once. Yes. Ivy's shoulders shook. She looked like she was going to collapse again. I moved to the couch and sat on the far end, giving her space but closing the distance. Ivy's hand reached for mine without looking, like muscle memory. I held her fingers lightly, not gripping, just anchoring. Harlow watched that. Her face tightened, but she did not attack. She did not accuse. She looked tired. Then she said quietly, you were right about one thing. I did not respond because I did not want to feed a fight. Harlow swallowed. She should not miss everything. Thayer's head turned sharply. Then why did you try to stop it? Harlow's eyes dropped. Because watching her shine without me felt like dying. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Finally, Harlow looked at Ivy and said, I am leaving, but I am not disappearing. I will call you. I will text you. I will try to be something. I cannot promise perfect, but I can promise honesty. Ivy's voice was tiny. Are you coming back? Harlow closed her eyes for a second, then opened them. No, she said. Not to live. It was brutal. It was also clean. No false hope. No dragging Ivy on a string. Harlow turned her chair toward the door. Thayer walked her out without touching her, like they were strangers sharing a hallway. When the door closed, Ivy's body finally gave out. She folded into my side, shaking with quiet sobs. I stroked her hair slow. Breathe, I whispered. You are safe. Over the next month, the shape of our lives changed. Thayer moved into our guest house. Not as a charity case, but as a man rebuilding. He set a schedule. He cooked dinner twice a week. He paid what he could. He went to his follow-up appointments. He started saying no at work, which was terrifying for him, but necessary. His health scare had forced him to see what denial had been doing. Ivy started meeting with Noelle at school. Not often, just to check in. Ivy pretended she did not care, but I noticed the change in her breathing, the way her shoulders sat lower, the way her eyes stopped scanning for danger every second. One afternoon, Ivy came home, dropped her backpack, and said, Noelle said something. I kept my voice casual. Yeah? Ivy shrugged, looking away. She said when adults leave, kids think it is because they were not enough, but adults leave because they are not enough for themselves. I felt tears burn my eyes, but I kept my voice steady. That is a smart thing. Ivy nodded once. Then she said, almost angry, so I am not the reason. No, I said softly. You are not. A few weeks later, a small envelope arrived in my mailbox with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a key. The paper had one sentence written in Harlow's handwriting. This is the key to the box in my closet, the one Ivy is not supposed to know about. My stomach tightened. I did not like secrets, not anymore. I called Thayer. He came over, and we opened the box together in the guest house closet where he had moved. Harlow's remaining things until the house sale was final. Inside the box were photo albums, letters, a small stuffed bunny Ivy had lost years ago and cried over for days, a dance program from Ivy's first recital, the one Harlow could not attend because she was too sick. It had a note on the back. In Harlow's handwriting, I watched her from the doorway. She was beautiful. At the bottom of the box was a sealed envelope addressed to Ivy. Thayer's hand trembled as he held it. Do we give it to her? I stared at the envelope and felt something settle in me. Something final. Yes, I said. But not today. On a day she feels steady. On a day the floor is not moving. We waited. Then one quiet Sunday, Ivy sat at our kitchen table. Pancakes in front of her, sunlight on her hair. She looked calm. Not happy exactly, but calm. Like she had stopped bracing for impact. I slid the envelope toward her. Ivy stared at it. From my mom. I nodded. Her fingers hovered, then she opened it slowly like it might bite. She read the letter in silence. Her face changed line by line. Her eyes filled, but she did not break. She held herself. When she finished, she folded the paper carefully and looked up at me. What did it say? I asked gently. Ivy swallowed. She said she is sorry. She said she was jealous of my life. She said she hated herself for it. She said she loves me enough to stop trying to control me. My throat tightened. That is something. Ivy nodded. Then she surprised me. She pushed the letter toward Thayer. You can read it too, she said. I do not want secrets anymore. Thayer's eyes filled. He nodded once like a man receiving mercy. That night, after Ivy went to bed, I stood in my kitchen and stared at the quiet house. Wilder came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist. You did good, he murmured. I exhaled. It does not feel like a win. Wilder kissed my temple. Sometimes the win is just that the kid survives with her heart intact. I leaned into him, eyes burning, and I thought about the screenshot Harlow had sent me. The circled line. The accusation. I had never replied. I had never defended myself. I had never fought her. And yet, in the end, the truth had come out anyway. Not through yelling, but through time. Through patterns. Through what people eventually admit when they cannot hold the lie anymore. A few days later, Ivy came home from school and announced, almost casually, I signed up for the spring dance showcase. I froze, dish towel in my hands. You did. Ivy nodded, eyes on mine. Yeah, I want to do it. Even if my mom cannot be there. My chest ached, but it was a sweet ache. What song? I asked. Ivy's mouth curved, small but real. Something loud. I laughed softly. Of course. She walked past me, then paused and looked back. Aunt Sarah, she said. Yeah, I know you are not my mom, she said, voice steady. But you did mom things when mine could not, and I am not going to feel guilty for being loved. I stood there stunned, tears spilling before I could stop them. Ivy lifted her chin, like she was claiming her own life. Then she went upstairs, humming under her breath, and for the first time in a long time, the sound felt like a future. Now I am stepping out of the story for a second, because there is a reason this kind of situation hurts so much. And it is not just the drama. It is the identity crisis underneath it. When someone loses control over their body or their life, they start looking for something else to control. And sometimes that something is the people closest to them. It is not always cruel. cruelty. Sometimes it is panic wearing a cruel mask. And the kid in the middle, the kid who just wants to be loved without conditions, ends up thinking love is something they have to earn by shrinking. That is the poison. That is what you have to pull out gently, day by day. No speeches, no big confrontations, just calm, predictable love. Boundaries that do not move, truth that does not scream. Because the quiet kind of safety is what rewires the nervous system. And when a child finally stops blaming themselves for an adult's collapse, that is not just healing, that is freedom.